everyone, welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the Executive Director for the Coalition on Adult Disc Education, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this national webinar, Mobilizing Your State for the Educate and Elevate campaign. Next slide, please. I would like to introduce you to our leadership team today. We have with us Reese Stagnolia, who's the Chair for the National Council for the State Directors of Adult Education. We have Pat Tyler, the Executive Director for the National Council for the State Directors of Adult Education, as well as Kay Charbonneau, the President for the Coalition on Adult Disc Education. I would also like to thank our wonderful sponsor, GED Testing, because without them, we wouldn't be able to have this leadership webinar, leadership series. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Vicki Green.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much. And good afternoon, everyone. As she just introduced myself, I'm Vicki Green with GED Testing Service. I've had the pleasure of being part of the GED Testing Service for the past 5 years and have been leading the operations organization. And we are really proud and excited to have the opportunity to sponsor the Leadership Initiative and the webinars for COABE and for the sponsors of the Educate and Elevate campaign. We love having an opportunity to come and reiterate some of the accomplishments that our GED grads are having since launching the new program in 2014. All because of the hard work of our adult educators, program directors, and you, your state's adult education leadership. These outcomes highlight accomplishments that make us all feel good about what we do. But most importantly, they speak to the power of what adult education and adult learners are capable of. These are the types of outcomes that we all need to be sharing loudly, proudly, and widely with the state elected officials, workforce boards, and community leaders. And you can all do the strategies and resources provided through Educate and Elevate. Since 2014, almost 75% of GED test takers say they want a job that will require additional education and training, and we're all helping them achieve those dreams. More than 41% of those GED grads have enrolled in some post-secondary certification program or classes. Not only are they attending, but they're prepared. More than 90% of them continue to be enrolled from semester to semester, meaning that on track to earn a meaningful credential required for better paying jobs. Almost 1 in 4 GED grads are scoring in the college-ready score level at least one subject area, and several state community college systems are allowing these students to bypass placement exams and remedial education classes. We have some of the largest employers across the country making a commitment to furthering the education of their employees through our GED Works program. We have over 10,000 employees signed up and engaged and working towards their GED and looking forward to advancing their careers and educational goals. We salute all of your hard work and dedication and for making these students more successful than ever before after earning their GED credential. And again, I would like to thank COABE for allowing us to be a sponsor and the leadership and advocacy initiatives in making this year's today's webinar possible. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Great. Thank you so much, Vicki. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate your sponsorship. It's really been wonderful, and it's really enabled us to be able to do this. I'd also like to talk about now, take a minute to talk about the role of the state leader. So as many of you on this webinar know, we had reached out to all the state association presidents and state directors. And the reason we felt this was so important is because we need you all out there communicating the compelling value of adult education, the importance of investing in adult education, and the urgency of being able to compete in a global economy. And we know that you as the state leaders are the ones who can you'll be able to push this campaign out to your state. So with that, I wanted to then turn to Pat Tyler, my colleague, the Executive Director at the National Council for State Directors, and ask Pat if you wanted to say a few words.
Yes, I'm happy to be here today, and I think this is an extremely important webinar for our state directors of adult education. And having been in that role until very recently in Maryland, I know that your hands are sometimes tied as a state director of adult education in terms of what you feel you can do, what you're allowed to do in terms of advocacy. But I think of advocacy as much, much broader than the kind of lobbying activity that is prohibited for state employees in many cases. As state directors, you have the power of a lot of data and information, and we tend to have a public relations problem in adult education in that the larger community around us doesn't really understand what we do and the potential of our programs to help individuals succeed and also to boost the economy. So today you're going to be exposed to a lot of tools that you can use just to educate, empower folks to know about adult education, and hopefully you can work with your state associations that have a little bit more leeway in what they can do in terms of advocacy. So I'm delighted that all of you have joined us today, and I'm happy to be here and happy to turn it over now to our communications partner, Full Capacity Marketing, who are doing a great job with helping us get this campaign out to everyone. So I'm going to turn it over to Selena Shan.
Thanks so much, Pat, and thank you all to the leadership on the call today. This has just been such a wonderful collaborative effort, and to Vicki too, and your sponsorship, who has made all of this really possible. Hello, everyone. I'm Selena Shands. I'm the CEO and founder of Full Capacity Marketing. We're a national firm that has a huge passion for workforce education and economic development, and we choose to work with these missions because they're missions that really help communities thrive. Adult education in particular is one of those that we just consider top of the list because it helps so many individuals as well as the economy when these individuals succeed. So we've been involved with the leadership in a very collaborative process in several things that you're going to see today. We've developed the website, which you're going to take a quick tour of, and we've also expanded that site for state campaigns as well, which you'll see and just a whole host of toolkits and items so that you can tailor it for your state participation. This is really about having a collective voice, if you will. It really doesn't do anyone good if we have one state participating or a couple of states. We really need everyone to come together in a leadership role. And what you're going to see today is that collective voice has a lot of punch, if you will, in terms of expanding reach and awareness about adult education. So that's a little bit about our company. And now, just also want to go over some housekeeping tips before we dive in here. The way you will communicate with us is to chat real time. So use the chat feature basically, and you can also ask questions. You can also raise your hand and let us know you're present. So let's go ahead and take a stab at this. And so in the chat feature, just let us know if you're a state association or a state director, and also what state you're from, just so we know. And you may also want to add, how many people are in the room, because maybe you invited some of your colleagues to meet with us here today. Okay, and we'll be monitoring that as we go along, and so you will make sure you get all of your questions answered by the end of the webinar. All right, let's get started. We have a lot to talk about today. So our topics today is why a national campaign? Why now, basically, at the bottom line. And that may seem like a pretty self-explanatory response, but we wanted to dive into it to set the context for why we even put the campaign together. We're going to take you on a tour of the campaign accomplishments to date and what we have built for you in terms of tools and how you can tailor those tools to meet your needs specifically. Then what we've done recently is really ratchet it up a notch. We've expanded the campaign website so that you can utilize it for a state campaign. And we're going to take you on a tour of how we've expanded the website and how you can use that to bring awareness to adult education in your state, as well as mobilize all of the adult education organizations throughout your state to participate. We've already had some early adopters, of course we have, in the state associations who have taken on some of the tools, and so we're going to walk through, we call our early champions, and share some of the models and options that you have so that you can participate as well. And most importantly, give you tools as a leader on how to mobilize the field. We did a similar campaign at this scale for all the workforce boards all across the country country, the 600 plus boards and their 2,000 American job centers who actually had some funding challenges quite some time ago before the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act was executed. And what we found is by collectively telling our story and using data, it was a very powerful campaign that allowed the funding to continue in the great work that they do. And now that partner is becoming very important for you in adult education with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So the point is that, you know, large-scale campaigns like this, the success is due to the mobilization of the field. So we're going to give you lots of tools and support to help you do that. And as we're going along and showing you these tools, if you see something that is not there, that you say, hey, I really need help with this in my state, let us know. Put it in the chat feature. Let Sharon know so that we can add that to the toolkit. Our goal here is to have you be highly successful. And then we'll talk about next steps. Okay, so in terms of why the national campaign, you know, we've got a new administration that's very much focused on business and industry. In fact, I was telling Sharon and the team, I was watching the administration give a talk the other day about immigration and their new point system. And the very last thing they said was, you know, we want to give points to people who have English, who have skills, and because they have to have skills for a job, to train in the economy, to be part of the economy. So you'll see in this campaign that we have two sides of our speaking points in the legislative talking points when we go and do our briefings. One is, of course, always how we help the individual, how we help that supply side of the equation, if you will, and the many faces of adult education. Because on the screen here, you say, you know, there's a lack of understanding and a real diminished value around adult education. It certainly composes literacy, but all of the other elements of adult education, whether that's pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeship, career education, English as a second language, all of those kind of wrap into the world of adult education. And there's a real disconnect out there with legislators and what we actually do in adult education and the value of that. And when we show the value, it is going to be from the individual side, but it also has to be from the demand side. How do what we do as adult educators fuel the economy and help business and industry? So all of that is kind of put into a strategy, as you'll see in the campaign. And of course, as Sharon said, you know, and this isn't just a one and done. What I mean by that is it's not just a one-time campaign. It's an ongoing campaign, because in this day and age, we all have to be really good and get really good at storytelling. What is our story? What is our value? Why should funders invest in adult education? And so all of those, we have to get really good, not just you as a leader, but your people within the state, all of your adult education organizations. And what we've seen through the course of these educational webinars, a lot of great models out there, and we want to replicate them. We want to share them so that everyone is on the same, has the same capacity, if you will, to tell a great story and be able to do that consistently. So it's a very important time for adult education. Now, the campaign has three specific goals. One is to create a process for a concerted effort to reach your local, state, and federal officials and our communities, because again, the more we educate, the more they understand the value. So that is first and foremost, and that's what we've done through the campaign. The second is to inform and educate officials about the relevancy of adult education. And again, this is a big difference, as Pat said, between lobbying and educating and informing. And this campaign is not about lobbying, it is about informing elected officials. And we're doing that through different things that you'll see today, through data points. In fact, Reese and his team they're going to do a whole webinar just on data and how you use data to tell the story. But we've kickstarted you in a good way with the campaign with some data points that we'll share today. Also sharing your stories and innovations, all of those things very important, and that's another goal. And then make specific asks to support funding for adult education. And so, you know, due to all these things building up to, of course, we have to have funding to do our work. So with that foundation, there are some top reasons to participate, we feel, as a state leader. One, and what we've done, and as we put these on the screen, you'll see in parentheses some of the things that we have created in the campaign to help you do these things. So one is to increase investments in adult education. We cannot do it without funding. And again, there's so many competing priorities in the administration, so many cuts already on the table that we have to have Hill visits to, and also to state legislators as well, and even local, to talk about our work. We'll demonstrate today or share with you some technology that Sharon and her team have to make scheduling Hill visits very easy. Secondly, we want to demonstrate that adult education is a value-added partner for WIOA-funded workforce organizations. This is so critical now that WIOA has come into play. There is a partnership there between workforce development boards and their partners and education. And we're seeing these models being created across the state where, there is a lot of synergy going on between these two, between adult education and workforce development. And the more those lines blur, we've got to get our seat at the table so that we can start building these models all the way around. And so we have some legislative speaking points that talk specifically to that. The third reason is through advocacy, we need to reposition adult education as a catalyst, economic catalyst. And we've talked about that in the previous slide, that it's literacy, but it's way more than that. And there are many benefits to adult education. Now, because we're in marketing and communications, we're always looking at organizations' brands. And so if you look at your brand, you look at it from several perspectives. Adult education is a brand itself, right? What is it? Why is it important? But then there are your brands at the state level and also your local adult education organizations as well. So we've set up systems in the toolkit and on the website to help get your organization recognized. And Sharon, if you're on, I would love for you to just chime in and maybe talk a little bit about the state conference and how you're going to maybe highlight some of the models and things that we're seeing across the state at the state conference. Sharon, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Perfect. Yes, we were lip reading.
Thank you, Selena. So as you know, we have our national conference, and there's a number of state conferences that take place all over the country. And many of our state association presidents that are on this webinar, they will know that not only does COABE zoom in and talk to the board, but then we also have a video that Selena's team helped us create that we asked that would be shown at all of the state conferences. And then in addition, when we're there in person exhibiting at the state conferences, we also have information on this Educate and Elevate campaign. So we're definitely getting the word out and trying to help you at the state level. Additionally, what we've done is we've reached out to the state associations and asked that they would start including this on their state conference sites as well.
Great. And aren't you going to do like some kind of conference award, Sharon, at the national campaign? What does that entail?
Yes. So in addition to this, we also will have at our national conference, we're going to have a State Innovations Award. And what this will be is for the states that are able to show innovations around this campaign, we're going to be giving them recognition and an award at our national conference. So we'll be putting out information on that actually very shortly by the 1st of September. So stay tuned for that. And then in addition, I'd just like to say hats off to Reese Dagnoli and his team because they'll be running a state strand at our national conference, which is the first of its kind. We've never done this before, but we figure there's a lot of really exciting things that states are doing that we'd love to create a platform for them to be able to talk about that and showcase those at our national conference.
I really love the systems you're setting up, Sharon, and this is one of them too. You've created this network. Why don't you talk to the folks about that? Because I read through this and I just thought it was great because you're really trying to replicate some great models and share information.
Thank you, Selena. So Tyler and I worked on this together. It's the Educate and Advocate Network. And what it is it's really the voice of the state associations and the state directors. And it's bringing together, hopefully everybody on this webinar has seen Educate and Advocate, because what we've done is we've sent it out to all of the state association presidents and state directors, and it's bringing together a lot of ideas and thoughts around professional development, advocacy, leadership, research, and of course, highlighting the successes and putting out there ways that we can improve. So we'll be sending this on the 10th of each month. We want you to continue to look for that in your inbox. One thing I wanted to mention is that we highlighted on our first Educate and Advocate that we've had over 15,000 connections to to legislators as a result of this Educate and Elevate campaign, over 15,000 connections. So it shows that we are out there and we are able to make a difference when we come together and unite together.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing that. And, you know, speaking of coming together and making a difference, the sixth reason, which I think is a top reason to participate, is building capacity of adult education organizations to effectively communicate. So the whole idea behind this campaign is to collectively storytell, if you will. And so one of the things that we're recommending that you do as leaders, and it's in your toolkit on the website, I'll show you where it is. We've created a whole sort of roadmap for you as a state leader, is to provide a presentation to within your state, whether that's on a webinar or however you want to do it. And so we have a PowerPoint presentation for you very similar to this to show them all the tools and how you're going to participate as a state leader. Now, one of the things you want to share with them during the briefing is why collective storytelling is powerful. And we've made it very easy for you, and you can actually share this in your briefing with staff, is a YouTube video from a neurochemist, Paul Zak. And it talks about reinventing the way stories are told. Now, I will warn you in advance, the story is very sad. It's a story about a little boy named Ben who has cancer. And it's the struggle that his father faces just in terms of being joyful around Ben, knowing that he's going to have a very short life. What happened is, after telling this story, the scientists actually took it into the laboratory and showed the video to people, and then took it a step further and started measuring brain chemistry, monitoring brain chemistry, doing blood draws and things like that as people were watching the story. And what they found, it was very interesting, that happened from a scientific perspective on storytelling, is that there were two chemicals that were released in the brain that increased empathy and openness, to the point where some of the laboratory experiments, the people watching the video had the opportunity to then give money to nonprofits or give money to complete strangers in some cases. And they found that the more chemicals that were present with this story, after seeing the story, you know, the more openness that they had and the more empathy they had. So part of storytelling is very scientific, and there is an art in telling a story, and that's what we help you do through the toolkits. And then collectively, and the story doesn't necessarily have to be sad, you know, it can be all kinds of different stories, but this really sets it up for you and your teams to understand why we selected this as a strategy. So this could be part of your briefing, and it's a short video. We'd highly recommend that you review it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the actual website here. Give me just a second here. Okay, so this is the campaign website. Let's take a little tour of this so that you can see what we've done here, just in terms of all the tools we have on the site for you. So this is a rotating mural that we have, and you'll see here there's different elements about, you know, the webinars and things like that. This is really your site for the tools, different links and things of that nature. Also, the video is here. So we have success stories, and then we drop down, and this is an animated graphic video that you can share not only at your meeting, but place on your website, because what we've done here is taken all the infographics and data points and build a business case for adult education. So it's a wonderful communications tool, and you can just add the link right there on your website. Now, because storytelling is so important, we have several categories for success story submission. We have the adult learner, which all of you I know have on file, successes. We also have employer successes. Why do we have this? Because, again, we're telling the story from the supply side, but also the benefits to business and industry given the administration's focus on that. So here, you know, we'll go in and you'll see how the story is set up about the challenge, the solution, and the outcome. And you'll see when you submit stories, it will be in that format, again, based on the research and how stories should be told. Let's pop into the adult learner success stories. And these rotate, by the way, these stories rotate. I'm going to go into Amanda's story. And here's a great example of Amanda Klein. She had a lot of circumstances that were keeping her down from being a single parent in low-paying jobs. She came in, studied the GED course, got a certification, and she's moving on. So there's kind of three parts to the story: the challenge, the solution, and the outcome. And excuse me, where we're going to put these stories too, you'll see, is on your state-specific page, which we'll get to in just a moment. So we have a whole host of stories here that are very powerful. The other thing we have are innovations, really important. Innovations are stories that you can see. You can click here to submit. I'm just going to do this really quickly. And you'll put your name in, your state, and you go down and you just briefly talk about the challenge, the solution, and the outcome. You can attach logos, you can attach photos or a video, anything of that nature. Now, why are innovations important? I think especially with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, we need to show how we are collaborating with other partners within our state and what types of innovations we are building from a programmatic perspective to help address market needs. So whereas success stories are individual, either about an adult learner or an employer, and innovation is more broad-based. What have you done from a programmatic perspective? And there's so many examples out there, and we need to showcase them on the site because this is where we will push legislators to look at our collective body of work in adult education. Let's go into the campaign toolkit. Campaign Toolkit is chock full with lots of information, and we're actually going to give you a roadmap on how to use all these tools. There are things like campaign fact sheets. There are items to work with the press, like media advisories, news releases. You'll see in here legislative talking points, strategies for legislative briefings, all of these things. And so how we've set this up is we've sort of chunked them out into these webinar topics. For example, working with the news media. How do you work with or how do you do a successful briefing for a legislator? How do you use social media? Maybe you want to do a special event to like an open house and invite your legislators there to look at your adult programs. So you'll see that we've housed in all of these sections a section called webinar. And if you go into webinars, you can download the recordings of all of them, which is a great way to educate your staff. And then it'll have an associated toolkit item or items. Now, one of the things I wanted to share with you right away is the top link. And I'm going to go over here, and this is a wonderful tool that COABE has put together. And it automatically looks up your legislator and sends an email to them. All you have to do is come in here, and there's a link for teachers, administrators, and friends of adult education, where you come in and just take action. You put in your zip code and your information, and when you click submit, it gives you the email that you can either send off, or if you want to tailor it, you can do that as well. There's also one for students. There's a student link down here. So students can come in and say, hey, this class really helped me. I'm an adult learner. And we've got that pre-populated as well. So lots of great things there for you to take a look at. Okay, so that's what we call also a quick fire. So now how have we expanded this? We've done a lot of work here, as you can see, with the leadership to really craft these tools that you can just plug and play and use them. How now can you take these and tailor them for your state? And that's what we want to get into now. We've really upped we've expanded the website now, and we've created a state-specific page for each of you. So if you go down here to the map locator tool, this is so fantastic because as we push legislators here, they'll be able to select a state from the drop-down menu or simply roll over and go to a state-specific page. So I'm going to come in here to Texas and see what's cooking there. So you can see everybody has a state-specific page. In this one, it'll say Texas Adult Education Innovations. It gives the state contacts for the state agency and the state association, as well as a link to your website. Why is this important? Because it helps you in the search engines when people are, when we have cross-promotional links in that manner. So we've added your websites on each of these, and then we've added state-specific reports. And Reese, I think Reese and who else, Sharon? Is it Pat or? Yeah, Reese and Pat, I think, maybe can speak to how we pulled this data and where this data comes from, because there's state reports on adult education and then state data on education. You guys want to talk to that for just a second?
So, Selena, this information is pulled from what those that are on the phone, state directors, are familiar with our NRS data that's submitted respectively by states, and then some of the information also from the ACS, the American Community Survey data. So one of the things that we want to do, that we've discussed as our leadership team on these calls together, is trying to refine some of this data to determine what's the most compelling data points and information that we need to include on these fact sheets and information. So any of you that have good ideas, we want to try to put the most compelling data points that would resonate with the audiences that we're trying to reach.
Fantastic. That's a great description. Thank you so much, Reese. And, you know, part of this is using data and telling stories. So it's kind of, we're trying to both at the same time. So having a state-specific page, you're going to be able to link to this from your website. Or if you don't have a website, this can be your campaign website, because what we've done now is also put a section for your adult learner stories and your state innovations. So as your repository grows and your submission grows, all of these will be on your state-specific page. So you can really use it as a mini website, if you will, to really garner attention. So this is how we've expanded the site. Now, we've had some early adopters. I'm going to pop back over to the PowerPoint here and talk about some of the early adopters that we've had in the campaign and just give them some kudos. We're going to start a section on our website, in fact, for the early champions, the early adopters. So you'll see when you get this PowerPoint, it tells you where to go for the rollover. And then let's talk a little bit about some of the states that have used the assets in this campaign and how they're using it, because it may spark ideas for you in how you want to use this in your state. So first of all, hats off to Alabama. You can see right here, we've taken a snapshot of their website and they've put the Educate and Elevate logo right on the home site page. And they've also done some email promotions out to their distribution list. Your distribution lists are really important for mobilizing your state organizations, because they need information about the campaign and submitting stories. Pardon me. As we go through this, I'm going to share some other ways that I think, just looking at your website of the early adopters, that you can use it to spark ideas. So one of the things, I see that you have social media on here. I see it right on your home page with Twitter and Facebook. That social media toolkit that we have developed in the campaign toolkit box has a whole host of social media tweets and posts that you can just pull and plug right in there. Also on Alabama's site, you notice a resource section at the top, right next to conferences. This would be a great to have a sub-page just dedicated for educate and elevate. And we've made it super easy for you all who have websites to expand, to put content on it. You can see we've got educate and elevate on the screen, proud partner, and it gives you information about the campaign, which all of us are using. Then it says you can go to educate and elevate, and then you can also check out Alabama's successes at this link. So you'll see it's educateandelevate.org/Alabama. And all of you have, again, that page that you just saw, your own state-specific page where all your success stories will be housed. So this way you're getting, you're pushing people to the national site to see the totality of the work, but specifically if there's something on the page you want to highlight for Alabama, you push them there. The other thing you could put together on this subpage is a press release. We have a press release that simply announces your participation in the campaign. And then, of course, you can have a link that says, hey, send a quick fire email of support, and that's that little tool that I just shared with you. So all of this makes a great little subpage, and it gives people a little bit more robust information about the campaign. Maryland has also done a great job. They've put, as you see under the announcement section on their website, the Educate and Elevate campaign. And the same thing as in Alabama, they could create a link now to a subpage expanding on their proud partnership. The other thing that Maryland is doing is going to be participating in Adult Literacy Week. And so this could be integrated very nicely with Adult Literacy Week, the end of September, which also coincides with COABE's visits to the Hill. So, you know, consider on Maryland's site, if you all want to expand under advocacy, some of the tools that we're using in social media, and we have a whole media kit that you could also integrate. We're actually encouraging people to do that all in one shot, the Adult Literacy Week as well as Educate and Elevate, and tie the two together. So they've done, Maryland's done a great job on the web, email, and social media promotions as well. This one's Pennsylvania, and again, logo on the home page. Again, making a room for a sub-page and maybe expanding information on your announcement page, which you have right up at the top here. But they've also went ahead and put the logo on and expanded. Arizona, we've got a couple suggestions for you all because your website is very robust with our stories, but you could certainly, you've got the logo right there, and they've actually integrated, which is fantastic, the look and feel of our mural. You see it right on the top there. That's a rotating mural. So any of these assets that you need from us, all you have to do is contact us and we'll make sure you get the logos and they're all included in your toolkit. The other thing, Arizona has a section for our stories. So you could literally just cut and paste those stories, Arizona, into the submit a story or submit an innovation on the national campaign site. We'll make sure that they get promoted as well as on your state-specific page. Good job there. Maine is another one who is an early adopter, and they have placed information about the campaign with the logo. Like Arizona, they have adult education stories and also use of social media. So both of those could be expanded on the website for additional strategies. Yay, Reese in Kentucky. They've also put the Proud Partnership logo on the site. They do a lot with social media. So again, creating a subpage, expanding the site a little bit and talking a little bit further about it with links to the Kentucky specific page on Educate and Elevate would be great. Texas has done a great job in terms of web promotions here. They really have detailed, if you go to their page, you'll see how they've talked about using the standard language that we have, which is some 55,000 plus adult education leaders. They talk even about the campaign components here and then learn more. So very simple to do is just adding information on your website. Louisiana is one that has actually promoted the video, our video, with a link on the site. So that's something all of you could do is just watch our campaign video, have a link that says send a quick fire email, read our press release. All these are just plug and play that you could add right on your website. So thank you, Louisiana. And then Connecticut, they've done a web promotions, they've also done a mural, and they've integrated it with their current advocacy efforts. So these are so great to have all of these different models, because you can go in and see what other states are doing. We're going to have these posted as our national champions. And of course, as you get integrated in the campaign and want to promote it, we'll do so. We'll promote you as well. And then Missouri has done sort of the same thing. They've done it on a web and a blog post. So if you have blogs that are available, you know, we have newsletter articles and things ready to go for you all to post about the campaign. So that's all. Before I get into California, you'll see that that's all sort of one way that every one of you, if you have a website for your association or state, you can simply take the toolkit and create little pages and calls to action for your folks to either submit a story or send a quick fire email. All those things are so easy to do. If you do not have a website, that's why we created the state-specific landing page on Educate and Elevate, the national site, because then you can push folks to there if you do not have a website. Pardon me. Okay, let's take a look at California. We're doing, obviously, since we're from California, we do a lot of work in adult education with their adult education block grant. And so you'll see here that they actually took the assets from the campaign and created a microsite. And the reason they're doing this is they're really organizing their whole campaign to their state legislators in October, and they wanted a place to house all of their stories. And everything we're doing here, it links into the national campaign website. So they have created a microsite using the assets of the national campaign. And you can do that as well if you'd like. So that's another model. So here are the three options that you have. You can select your online strategy. You've got to have a place online to push legislators to. So you can either, what we want to do is have you review your state-specific page. And then if you have any changes to that, let us know. There are going to be some states that don't have any success stories in innovation. So we want you all to make sure you submit those stories so that your page doesn't look blank. We don't want to have create an unequal playing field if you have one state that has a lot of innovations and successes and none on the other. So the more the merrier. Again, if you have an existing website, you can use the campaign toolkit, the logo, and the active links to the website to create active links just as our early adopters have, or you could consider a model like California and develop a microsite with the campaign. So Sharon, I'm going to stop there. Are there any questions on that, or is there anything you want to add just on step one, and then I'll go through all the toolkit items with them. And your sound. There you go.
You can hear me now. Okay, great. You've done an excellent job covering all the ways, you know, as we saw, there are so many early adopters, which is fantastic. And then covering ways that the states can tailor their websites. I just wanted to mention that I think it's really exciting that we also have that one place where legislators can come, where there's the look and the feel with a rollover map. And we've already had a question from one of the attendees on if they can have their fact sheets uploaded, their personalized or their state fact sheets also uploaded to the website. So I wanted to ask you about that, Selena.
Absolutely, yes. What we did to start out is we just created kind of a template that we thought of key sections. It's like, okay, let's get the contacts in there, let's do some data points, and then of course the success stories. This is your opportunity to shine. So if you have fact sheets or things you want uploaded, let us know and we can do that, absolutely. Great question. Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go through the roadmap because there are a lot of tools, right? It's like, well, where do I even start? So we did a very simple checkbox for the state leaders with links to specific tools that you can use. So you'll see in the top section is that you've got to select your strategy first. What are you going to use for online, pushing your legislators to? Again, option 1 is just to use the national campaign site as your main landing page. That's fine, but we want you to, again, look at all the information to make sure the page is correct. And I've got a link here. It says send your changes to this email address. And as the question just popped up, can we put a fact sheet or a report or anything like that? Absolutely. So that's the first thing. The second thing is option is, in addition to that, if you have an association or a state website, then here, definitely promote the campaign. You can get the logo, which is on the website, on Educate and Elevate, and just put proud partner and the logo, and then have the byline here that we have to explain the campaign, to go to not only the national campaign site, but your state specific landing page. And then if you really want to, if you've got a state like California is really organizing their efforts very carefully, and they wanted to do a microsite. If you need any of the website files or assets that you see as you're kind of perusing through what other states are doing, just contact me and we'll make sure we get you those files, and so that you can create what you need to in your state. Okay, now once that's handled, let's look at the mobilization strategies. And these are all things that we're going to actually ask you in a follow-up survey what you're planning for your state. And again, this is whatever you feel you need in your state area, but it's a checklist for you. So the first one is, and I would recommend this for all of you, is to host a state webinar to announce your participation. You could either, if you don't want to do the webinar, we actually have a kickoff webinar that is recorded on Educate and Elevate. You could send an email out to your adult education organizations and say, hey, take a look at this webinar, we're going to participate, and here's how we'd like for you to participate. If you want to host the state webinar, this link on the right-hand column has a PowerPoint presentation for you to go through. So we've tried to, again, create it in as many tools as we can to help you get the word out. The second strategy that you could use, and we'd highly recommend this, is to use your email distribution list to send regular updates about the campaign. So you'll see from COAID's standpoint, we're releasing a newsletter every week about the campaign, talking about the strategies, the tools, highlighting a champion, those types of things, calls to action that you can use. So we're constantly reminding you, and likewise, you want to constantly remind your adult education organizations within your state. So you don't have to create the content. You could actually forward information that we're sending you every week to your distribution list. And at this page that I'm linking at right now, or just showing you, you can actually take that content, which is from our e-newsletters, and retool it however you want. So I highly recommend, regular e-blasts. We do weekly. You know your audience the best. We've talked about this one. Put a link on your website for students, colleagues, and friends to send that quick fire email. And it's so easy. Again, I demonstrated it today. They put their name, their zip code, and it automatically pre-populates the email with their legislator. And again, it's so important that all states participate in this. That's such an easy thing to do, and to put that on your website if you have one. This is the core of what we're doing, is success stories for both adult learners and employers, as well as state innovations, what you're doing. And we've given you the hot links here to submit. So as you're briefing your adult education organizations, you know they have testimonials, you know they have success stories about adult learners. This is our chance to collectively display them all on the website and build relevancy about the mission. Other strategies. Using the media toolkit to announce participation. What's in the media toolkit? And again, remember, we have a webinar on each of these. So part of this, when you're mobilizing your teams, it's not only about getting them to submit the quick fires and success stories, but it's helping to educate your folks to be better communicators in the field. So I'd highly recommend that you say, look, there are recorded webinars here. Have everyone look at the media webinar, and then it has an associated toolkit items there. So there are things in here like the press release template, There's a media advisory template that just announces, like a special event, if you're hosting a special event. There are campaign fact sheets and campaign videos. So that media webinar was really good. It gave some great information about how you work with your local and state media. Here's another suggestion. You could create special events like open houses to promote your adult education program. So let's say you've mobilized your state, they're submitting success stories, they've got the quick fires rolling out, but they want to showcase to the community their great work in adult education. So collectively, you could pick a month, October, September, and say, okay, this month we're going to host special events and promote them through the media to let the community know what we're doing in adult education. There's a whole webinar on that, and we have planning checklists. We even have proclamation samples. So if you want to proclaim September or October, pick a month. Educate and Elevate month. We've got pitch letters to get your proclamations in there. I mean, all kinds of things, as well as editable postcards and posters for your events. One of the ideas that someone came up with is taking these postcards and having students just send them out to write their success story on them and send them to their legislators, taking them to class and saying, what do you like about, adult education? So all of that's in there. And then, of course, social media, following and liking the campaigns. We have a social media webinar, but a toolkit with, again, plug-and-play social media posts. Now, this is probably the most important one, which is determining your state plan of action for legislative briefings. We had some great guest speakers for the legislative webinar that you can take a look at. And in the toolkit, we have legislative talking points, pitch letters, and we also have a tool from COABE to help you schedule your briefing, so we know what everybody is doing in terms of when they're going to be talking to legislators, who they're talking to, et cetera. And then lastly, we're going to put together a SurveyMonkey very quick checklist that says, which of these am I going to participate in? So again, we've tried to make it just as simple as we possibly can with plug and play, knowing that you have obviously limited time. You have your day job, so to speak, but we also know that for all the reasons that we mentioned, that funding is super, super important, as well as educating legislators about the value of adult education. So at the end of this, we will be giving you a survey on the webinar, but we're also going to ask you to just take another survey where you're going to plug in, yeah, this is how my state is going to participate, because we can highlight that then when we go out and talk to legislators in terms of what you all are doing. Uh-oh, my window is closed. So Sharon, I'm going to turn it back to you while I get my screen back here and see if you have any questions that have come up.
So thank you. We do have a few questions here. We have one who's asked us, she says, can we add quotes from our congressional reps or governors about their support of adult education on our state page site? And I would say, Sonia, yes, we can definitely do that. We would love that. Send them in to us. You can send it to educateandelevate@coabe.org. Also, we have another one who's asked, I'm assuming the recordings of this webinar will be shared with attendees so that we can also share with our staff who will then implement these strategies. And actually, Selena is going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All the webinars are recorded, and also you can use this webinar. There was also a kickoff webinar that we did earlier on. This one we geared it more to talking to you as leaders. The kickoff webinar is one that really talks to the field. So that would be the one I would say you want to share with the field. And it's in the toolkit, and we'll put it actually in your mobilization toolkit as well. Or you can use the PowerPoint as well. Trying to keep it very simple for you. Great question. Sharon, any other questions on that?
we've not had any other questions in that area now. Thank you.
Okay, great. So a couple of things as we wrap up here. COABE has just been fantastic in providing technology and tools to help us learn and share with each other. And one of the things that they have at this link you see on the screen, and you could download this PowerPoint too, this will be up on the website, is a learning forum. And it's a place where we can go and have peer-to-peer discussions. You get your questions answered about the campaign. Let's say after this you have several questions. That's another way you get your questions answered so that we can share with each other. And that's the address on it. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over, I think, to Reese to close out and share any words, or any of the leadership team who have anything else to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Selena. Wow, what a great body of work that has been put together here. Certainly the operative word here today has been elevate. My observation at this partnership with COABE and Full Capacity Marketing has really elevated our advocacy and outreach and communication efforts to new heights. No pun intended. This is terrific work, and it really helps to think about how do we focus our message today on what's really going to resonate with our constituencies and partners and funders. And I think this really helps bring a lot of great focus to the message that's going to resonate with today's policy leaders and decision makers and funders. And as you mentioned earlier, it's a lot of it's focusing on in the future is key data points and information, and how we can inform our constituencies based on key data points and information. And as I've said before, it helps us move from the anecdotal to the factual. And as you noted earlier in one of your early slides, it's really how do we convey the message that adult education is really an important economic catalyst. And so I think that's an important part of our message going forward, and how we can share more information regarding the return on investment, and that making an investment in adult education is a sound investment. So with that, thank you for your work at Full Capacity Marketing and our partnership with COABE and its state directors. We're really excited about this work together.
Outstanding. So Sharon and Kay, or anyone have anything else to add?
Well, I would just like to ditto. Yeah, I would just like to ditto what Reese has said. Never before in my work in the last 25 years with adult education have I seen the level of partnership that we are seeing today. And that's due in part to our partners, the state directors, as well as Selena, your part in this too. Y'all are doing a magnificent job. State association leaders out there, I hope the work that we have put forth here will be something that you can use. We definitely want to hear pros and cons of it. We want this to be something that becomes an everyday tool, because as we've said over and over and over, we have to have a collective voice. We have to let people know how important our services are for our students. And so to do that, we do that by joining together and joining forces. And I think this is something that we are seeing coming together today. So as I love to say at this point in time, y'all, all of you out there that are where the rubber meets the road in adult education, it's our time, and it's our time to come together and to show people the work that we do and be respected out there. So thank you all so much for what you do and for your participation in this today. And we will continue to be in touch with you for sure. Thank you again.
Great. So I would just also like at this point to again thank Vicki Green, who's with GD Testing Service. Vicki, did you have anything you'd like to say before we close out?
You know, I think I would say probably very similar things to that's already been said, but I really do, you know, one of the things at GED Testing Service that we love is telling the stories and using data. And I can tell you firsthand that the more stories that we all tell, the more compelling story we have for everyone out there to really understand the advocacy behind adult education and all of the important things that all of you adult educators do out there. So I can promise you that GED Testing Service will continue to work hard in looking at ways to tell more stories of our adult educators, you know, look for ways to improve our tools, our professional development, and really just jump on the same bandwagon of really helping provide data and stories to really just continue to tell a more compelling story and show a really strong partnership. So again, I'd like to thank COABE and all of you for allowing us to be here and to be a sponsor. And thank you to everyone on the call for all the things that you do to make adult education so successful. So thanks again.
Thank you, Vicki.
Before we close, Pat, did you have any final words as well as the executive director for the state directors? Okay. Well, from all of us here, we just want to thank you all for making time for this. We really feel it's extremely important at the state level that each of you would be working with your state associations and with your state agencies to push this forward, because when we all work together, the opportunity to do something really exciting and to really make a difference is much greater. So we need your help here at COABE and with the state directors. We've worked hard on this, and we need your help to push this out at the state level. So thank you all for making time for this. Please feel free to reach out to us at any time, educateandelevate@coabe.org, or just an email or a phone call away. And we look forward to seeing what we can do as we move this forward. Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye now.
Bye now.
Thank you.